Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gordon Flake. I'm the CEO of the Perth USAsia Centre at the University of Western Australia. And it is my great honor to welcome you all today to launch a special report of the Perth USAsia Centre focused on Ria-Vung Tau Province in Vietnam. We are greatly honored today to have joining us for the launch of this report, Mr. Tran Van Tuan, who is the Vice Chairman of the Ria-Vung Tau People's Committee. We're also joined from Canberra by by the Vietnamese ambassador to Australia, Ambassador Tran Nguyen, and a wonderful panel which I'll be introducing in just a minute. I think most people on this call, we've got a tremendous level of interest here in Western Australia, as well as in Vietnam, and elsewhere throughout this region, recognize that as much as ASEAN as a whole, or Southeast Asia as a whole, is known for its dynamic economy, there's probably no country in the last 10 years that has been more dynamic than the country of Vietnam. It has emerged within ASEAN as an economic leader, both on the policy side and on the investment side. And so it is no surprise that the Perth USAsia Centre was delighted when in 2020, the government of Western Australia decided to negotiate and agree upon a sister state relationship or memorandum of understanding with Ria-Vung Tau Province in the southern part of Vietnam, just on the coastal side of the city of Ho Chi Minh City, a tremendous and dynamic province, which even in our COVID era, the obvious natures of potential collaboration have come true. Allow me to acknowledge that the Deputy Premier of Western Australia, Minister Roger Cook, who serves at the same time as the Minister for the Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation, very much wanted to be with us today. He is in Parliament as we speak. It is question time. And as a result, I'm here to convey his deep thanks to the Vice Chairman of the People's Committee in Ria-Vung Tau Province and to the Ambassador and to our wonderful panelists. We're also pleased to be joined online by senior officials from the Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science, Innovation here. And in just a minute, you'll see when I introduce the panel, we've got a wonderful Western Australia Commissioner for Southeast Asia joining us for this conversation. Before we formally kick off the launch of the report, and have a panel discussion around the report, I wanted to first turn to a keynote speech to kind of start us off here by Mr. Tran Van Tuan, who is the Vice Chairman of the Ria-Vung Tau People's Committee. Vice Chairman Tran has visited Western Australia. He mercifully was here before our COVID lockdowns, and we very much look forward to welcoming him back. So without further ado, Vice Chairman Tran, let me turn the time over to you for some opening remarks.
Kính thưa Ngài Giáo sư Nguyễn Tất Thành, Đại sứ Việt Nam tại Australia. Kính thưa Giáo sư Gordon Flake, Giám đốc Trung tâm Nghiên cứu châu Á Hoa Kỳ tại Perth. Thưa quý vị đại biểu, quý vị khách quý.
Thank you very much for your introduction, and His Excellency Mr. Ambassador of Vietnam in Australia, Dr. Gordon Flake, the CEO of Perth USAsia Centre, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen.
Trước hết thay mặt lãnh đạo tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, tôi xin gửi lời chào trân trọng đến quý vị nhân dịp ra mắt báo cáo nghiên cứu về tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu ngày hôm nay và gửi lời cảm ơn chân thành vì sự quan tâm của quý vị dành cho tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu.
So first of all, on behalf of the authority of Barrio Province, I would like to send our warm regards and sincere thanks for you and your kind interest in Barrio Province.
Đây là một sự kiện có ý nghĩa hết sức đặc biệt, mở ra cơ hội mới cho việc phát triển quan hệ hợp tác giữa tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu với các đối tác của Australia, với tầm nhìn chiến lược dài hạn đặt trong tổng thể phát triển quan hệ hợp tác giữa hai quốc gia Việt Nam và Australia.
So I think this will be a very meaningful event for us because it opens new opportunity for promoting cooperation and partnership between Barrio Province and its Australian partners. with a long-term strategy and bring huge potential for contributing to the partnership between Australia and Vietnam.
Tôi xin bày tỏ lòng trân trọng đối với sự quan tâm, nhiệt huyết và nỗ lực của Trung tâm Nghiên cứu Châu Á, Hoa Kỳ tại Perth trong việc tổ chức sự kiện ngày hôm nay.
So therefore, I would like to send our special thanks to the Perth USAsia Centre for launching the report and organizing this webinar.
Chúng tôi đánh giá rất cao những kiến nghị đề xuất tại báo cáo nghiên cứu về phương thức tăng cường hợp tác giữa tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu và Australia trong thời gian sắp tới. Cộng đồng doanh nghiệp Australia tại tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu là một trong những doanh nghiệp nước ngoài đầu tiên đầu tư và đóng góp rất tích cực cho sự phát triển của tỉnh, nhất là các doanh nghiệp lớn của Tây Australia như là Otto, Interfloor.
We greatly appreciate the findings and recommendations of this report on the steps toward deeper connections with Australian partners. And in Barrio Province, Australian companies were among the very first foreign firms to invest in our province. And the Australian business community has contributed greatly to the development of our province, especially those companies from Western Australia like Ostor and Interfloor.
Để tăng cường thêm sự hiện diện của Australia nói chung và của Tây Australia nói riêng tại tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, chúng tôi xin cung cấp thêm một số thông tin như sau.
So in order to promote further economic presence of Australia in the general and Western Australia in particular in our province, I would like to give you some further information as follows.
Hiện nay, tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu định hướng thu hút các nhà đầu tư vào 4 ngành kinh tế mũi nhọn của tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu. Đó là thứ nhất là công nghiệp, thứ hai là cảng biển và logistics, thứ ba là du lịch và thứ tư là nông nghiệp công nghệ cao.
Now Ria-Vung Tau Province wants to attract FDI investment in 4 key economic sectors, including industry, seaports and logistics, tourism and high-tech agriculture.
Các mặt hàng xuất khẩu chủ yếu của doanh nghiệp trong tỉnh sang thị trường Australia là hàng dệt may, sơ sợi, giày dép, thủy hải sản, hạt điều, máy móc, thuyền, sắt thép, vải các loại và các mặt hàng nhập khẩu chủ yếu của Australia đó là lúa mì, máy móc, sắt thép, sợi dệt, kim loại, hóa chất. Tỉnh cũng có tiềm năng về xuất khẩu các mặt hàng nông lâm thủy sản đã qua chế biến và rất mong muốn tìm đối tác Australia về vấn đề này.
For trade relations, Ria-Vung Tau Province export mainly to Australia, garment and textile, agriculture and aquaculture products, capsules, machinery products, steel, ships, while we import machinery, cotton, chemicals, and so on from Australia. We still have a lot of potential and seek for Australian trade partners in the progress, agriculture and aquaculture products.
Chúng tôi cam kết sẽ hỗ trợ hết mình để giúp tăng cường sự hiện diện của các doanh nghiệp Australia trong các ngành kinh tế chính của tỉnh, cũng như làm việc cụ thể với chính quyền bang Tây Australia để hướng dẫn, cung cấp thông tin về đầu tư kinh doanh tại tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, giúp các doanh nghiệp Australia tìm hiểu về việc đầu tư và sản xuất tại tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu. Chúng tôi cũng sẽ chỉ đạo các sở ngành của tỉnh hỗ trợ các doanh nghiệp Australia khi đến tìm hiểu về đầu tư, hợp tác thương mại với tỉnh.
So if any Australian companies want to seek for investment opportunities in Ria-Vung Tau Province, we'll make sure to give the best support for the companies, and also we will work together with Western Australian government to provide information on how to establish their business in Ria-Vung Tau Province. The People's Committee will also assign our local departments and agencies to give support for Australian companies.
Đồng thời, trong thời gian tới, nếu Trung tâm Nghiên cứu Châu Á Hoa Kỳ tại Perth có nhu cầu đi thực tiễn các cái chuyến khảo sát, nghiên cứu chuyên sâu hơn nữa tại tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu thì trong các cái lĩnh vực cụ thể, và chúng tôi sẽ sẵn sàng là cầu nối, cung cấp thông tin và làm việc cùng trung tâm để cùng tìm ra các phương thức tốt nhất nhằm tăng cường sự hiện diện của các doanh nghiệp Australia tại tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu.
So moreover, in the time to come, we are really happy if we can receive the delegation from Perth USAsia Centre for site visits for any further research and work with us. And we're willing to give you more information and work together with you in order to find out solutions for promoting the Australian business presence in specific areas and sections of our province.
Trong bối cảnh đại dịch đang diễn biến phức tạp, chúng tôi mong muốn tăng cường các hoạt động trao đổi thông tin, tổ chức các diễn đàn doanh nghiệp trực tuyến, trước mắt là các diễn đàn trong lĩnh vực nông nghiệp, công nghiệp, du lịch, dịch vụ vận tải biển, trong khuôn khổ các chương trình hành động thực hiện bản ghi nhớ giữa tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu và bang Tây Australia trong cái giai đoạn từ nay đến năm 2024.
And during this complicated situation of the COVID-19, we hope and want to promote online cooperation programs. First and foremost, we look forward to organize business-to-business webinars for agriculture, industry, tourism, which are listed in the action plan for implementing the Memorandum of Understanding with Western Australia towards 2024.
Nhân dịp này, thay mặt lãnh đạo tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, tôi trân trọng gửi lời cảm ơn ông Kyle Springer, Trung tâm Nghiên cứu Châu Á Hoa Kỳ tại Perth, chính quyền bang Tây Australia, đặc biệt là ngài Nguyễn Tất Thành, đại sứ Việt Nam tại Australia. Và thông qua đây, chúng tôi cũng xin gửi lời cảm ơn đến lãnh đạo và cán bộ của Tổng lãnh sự quán Việt Nam tại Perth đã luôn đồng hành hỗ trợ việc phát triển quan hệ hữu nghị, hợp tác giữa tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu và Tây Australia trong thời gian qua.
And I also would like to take this opportunity to send our thanks to Mr. Kyle Springer, the author of the report, Mr. Ambassador of Vietnam in Australia, and we also want to show our gratitude to the Vietnamese Consulate General in Perth for their consistent assistance and support for the partnership between Barrio and Western Australia.
Kính chúc các vị khách quý và toàn thể quý vị đại biểu mạnh khỏe, nhiều niềm vui và hạnh phúc. Chúc cho mối quan hệ hợp tác hữu nghị giữa tỉnh Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu và Australia ngày càng phát triển và nâng lên một tầm cao mới. Xin chúc cho sự kiện ngày hôm nay thành công tốt đẹp. Thank you very much.
And finally, I wish you good health and happiness, and we really look forward for further cooperation between Ria-Vung Tau and Australia in the time to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Chairman Tran Van Tuan. We really appreciate your remarks. I would note that this is one of these relationships that started last year in the middle of the COVID era. And so the formal signing of the Memorandum of Understanding had to take place this way virtually. The report we are launching today has to be launched virtually. But I trust that once we are able to travel again, we will already know each other. We will recognize each other's faces, and we will have done some of the groundwork to have a better idea of how to continue that so that we are not slowed down in the process. And so on behalf of the Perth USAsia Centre, we really thank your team in Ria-Vung Tau Province for their support. Particularly Ms. Ria-Vung Tau, who did a wonderful job of translating your remarks, and as an international liaison officer for the province, has been key to helping set up this meeting. So thank you so much, Ms. Lian, and thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Now, the report itself, I am very excited to launch. This is one of these topics that I'm personally passionate about, and I'm having to hold back from not telling all the good stuff myself, because really that honor should go to my colleague, Kyle Springer. Kyle is a policy fellow at the Perth USAsia Centre, does our work on Southeast Asia, and over the last over 6 years, he's been with the Perth USAsia Centre, has written extensively on Vietnam. This particular report is very forward-leaning in its titling, its framing. It is Ria-Vung Tau Province, a vanguard for advancing the Australia-Vietnam economic relationship. And so, Kyle, at the risk of stepping on your toes further, I'm going to turn the time over to you just to give us a brief summary of your report itself. It's available online to all those watching it. And then I'm going to turn to Krista Dunstan for some reaction, just so I can introduce you both at the same time. Krista, I think everybody knows, is the Western Australian Commissioner for Southeast Asia. And she is one of the first to leave in the COVID era. So she's currently still in Singapore. And we discussed it before the meeting started. The moment the Vietnamese borders are open up, she'll be there. And as soon as we can leave, we'll be there with her too. So without further ado, let me turn first to you, Kyle, to give us a quick overview of your research.
Look, thanks so much. Thank you, everybody. This has been really, really exciting. I'm excited to see the reception that this report and its findings have received. I'm also likewise very honored that we've been able to hear from the Vice Chairman of the Ria-Vung Tau People's Committee. And we look forward also to closing remarks from the Ambassador, His Excellency Nguyễn Tất Thành, later in the program. I also want to acknowledge the West Australia Vietnam Business Council for their support of my research and their continued efforts to really bring our two provinces, our states, together. So when I look over a map of the Indo-Pacific region, I cannot think of another province among Australia's diversification partners which has the unique mix of features that Ria-Vung Tau, or BRVT, has to offer Australian companies. And there are 4 features of the province which I want to highlight. And I'm going to use this Google map, and I will bring it up now. And the first key thing is that the existing presence of Australian businesses in Ria-Vung Tau Province, and you can see them pop up on the map here. We've discussed Austal, the shipbuilder, which began operations in the province in 2018. And then along here on the Tivai River, we have Interflower, which operates a grain terminal and barley malting facilities in the province as well. And also Blue Scope Steel, which has had presence in the province for over a decade. So that's the first thing. It already hosts Australian investment and businesses in the province. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and switch on another layer that highlights the high quality infrastructure that is really critical to the province connecting internationally. And you can see here along the Tivai River, the network of seaports, which really positions the province to become a major international transport and logistics hub as Vietnam's economy continues to grow. And I'm going to zoom out and highlight my third point, which is the province's proximity to the Ho Chi Minh City. And in fact, the province is part of the greater Ho Chi Minh City metropolitan area, which is a huge market in its own right, with around 21 million people. So very, very significant market, very, very important for Australian companies when they're considering where to make investments. And then the fourth point, which I actually can't place on this map, is the robust trade and investment frameworks, which both Australia and Vietnam share. And I'll go through them very, very briefly. These frameworks include the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, and also the soon-to-be ratified Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP. Now, the CPTPP is important as it provides Australian and Vietnamese firms with a strong investment framework, right? It gives them the confidence to move capital between both countries. And RCEP is on track to enter in force early next year. And it really promises to boost value chain opportunities between its 15 members. And this, of course, includes Australia and Vietnam as well. And now at the subnational level, and something that we'll focus on today, is the mechanism that we have in the Memorandum of Understanding between the governments of Western Australia and Ria-Vung Tau. Now, my report finds that this combination of features and the province's pro-investment stance makes it a vanguard opportunity for Australia to advance its economic ties with Vietnam. These features also make Ria-Vung Tau one of the most attractive destinations for foreign direct investment in Vietnam. In fact, it is the fourth most popular destination for foreign investment out of Vietnam's 63 provinces and municipalities. And this BRVT hosts a total of $33 billion in investment. Top investors in the province include the USA, Japan, South Korea, among others. And at a time when Australia is seeking to diversify its trade and investment partnerships with growing economies such as Vietnam, Ria-Vung Tau is an ideal focal point to concentrate our diversification efforts. Now, how can we continue to move our trade and investment relationship with BRVT forward? Well, I think the West Australian government has an early mover advantage in their MOU with Ria-Vung Tau, and activating in particular the economic cooperation component of this MOU will be key. This part of the MOU includes facilitating business-to-business links, an exchange of annual trade delegations, and uniquely a public service exchange between government and industry agencies. Activating this MOU will open doors for WA businesses interested in Vietnam as a diversification partner, with BRVT as the focal point. Now, my colleague Krista Dunstan will talk more about the next steps of the MOU shortly, but another important activity for advancing ties is helping Australian companies understand how to establish operations in the province. And in my report, I call for the establishment of a roadmap program to help achieve this. This program would make full use of the existing knowledge and expertise of Australian companies already operating in Ria-Vung Tau. This program would serve as a resource for clarifying local business processes, provincial level incentives, and utilizing trade agreements with Vietnam, such as the CPTPP and RCEP. This program would include a component that promotes networks between Australian companies and local government officials and industries in BRVT province. And now I want to wrap up my comments with one final thought. I mentioned earlier that BRVT hosts billions of dollars of investment from other countries such as the USA, South Korea, and Japan, right? Australia does not have the scale to be one of the largest investors in BRVT overall, but a strategy that is fit for scale is ensuring that there is an Aussie commercial presence across the sectors in which both countries share economic complementarities. So establishing Australian companies as investment or trade partners in the LNG, mineral processing, manufacturing, tourism, and agricultural sectors will establish Australia as a broad-based and reliable economic partner for Ria-Vung Tau. Now I look forward to visiting the province and promoting further activities between our two sides as international travel begins to resume in 2022. And I look forward to our discussion session coming soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Now, obviously, you in a short presentation, you can't include everything you put in your report, but I would urge everybody on this call or later on watching this video to take the time to read Kyle's report. He's done a wonderful job of setting the big picture context, you know, the broader trends in the CPTPP or RCEP, or the broader trends in terms of other investment, and then looking specifically at how Australia can have what Kyle described as a fit for scale strategy, and with some very specific recommendations as to what we might do. So I'm going to turn now to our friend and colleague, Krista Dunstan. Krista, as I introduced before, is the Investment and Trade Commissioner for the ASEAN region for the Government of Western Australia. And just about a month ago, we at the Perth USAsia Centre we're able to host a delightful evening launch event for a new structure and system of WA trade and investment commissioners going on in the region. And I can tell you that even if we're still in our bubble within a bubble, you know, in the COVID era, where our borders are make travel difficult, there is a tremendous level of government, community, and business excitement about building in these ties. And Krista, to use Kyle's term, is at the vanguard of that. She's already in the region. So Krista, without further ado, let me turn over to you, sir, for any remarks that you might want to make about the government strategy, but also your reaction to Kyle's report.
Great, thanks Gordon for the introduction, and thank you Kyle for the walk through the region and some of the opportunities there. I certainly hope to do a bit of landscape setting around our relationship to date and where we're hoping to head. As an Australian custom, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land from which we're hosted today, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to their elders both past and present. I also acknowledge our honoured guests, His Excellency Mr. Nguyễn Tất Thành, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam to the Commonwealth of Australia. And of course, Mr. Tran Van Tuan, Vice Chairman of Ria-Vung Tau People's Committee. Thank you very much for your remarks earlier as well. It's certainly a pleasure to be with you all for the launch of Perth USAsia Centre's report on Ria-Vung Tau Province. Congratulations to the Perth USAsia Centre, and of course Carl Springer is the author, for this insightful report which disseminates the economic opportunities which lay within the Ria-Vung Tau Province and also Vietnam more broadly. In April 2019, the Honourable Peter Tinley, AM MLA, recognised an opportunity to formulate the Memorandum of Understanding with Ria-Vung Tau to promote mutually beneficial cooperation in economic development, vocational education and training, and culture and the arts. And the MOU was formalised on the 16th of September 2020. And since then, the Department of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation, in cooperation with the Ria-Vung Tau Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, has finalised the WA Ria-Vung Tau MOU Plan of Action, which serves to bring the initiatives and commitments within that MOU to life. The Centre's report emphasises the importance and value of this MOU, and the Department looks forward to working in collaboration with our partners across WA and Ria-Vung Tau to build the relationship between our two communities and economies to deliver mutually beneficial outcomes. In terms of our broader relationship with Vietnam, our bilateral trade has actually flourished during the global pandemic. Western Australia maintains strong bilateral trade relationship with Vietnam, accounting for 25% or $1.6 billion worth of Australia's goods exports to Vietnam in 2020. Similarly, we imported a total of $325 million worth of goods from Vietnam in 2020. Both our imports and exports were above the annual averages over the past 10 years, and I think this just indicates the level of potential and growth within the region. We've maintained strong business presence in and engagement with Vietnam, and this is highlighted in the report, and Kyle alluded to it earlier. Western Australia's CBH Group has a 50% interest in Interflower, and it's been operating mills, a malting plant and ports in Ria-Vung Tau and across Vietnam since 2005, so quite a long-standing commitment. And Western Australian company Austal operates its shipbuilding facility, which commenced operations in 2018 and expands its manufacturing operations for commercial vessels. In March 2019, the department, together with the Consulate General of Vietnam and the WA Vietnam Business Council, organised the Vietnam Business Roundtable to discover future economic opportunities within Vietnam. And we continue to work with stakeholders to build on the awareness of and access to those opportunities for investment and trade with Vietnam. In terms of vocational education and training, which is a focus area of the MOU, Vietnam was in Western Australia's top 10 markets for international students and 3% of international student enrolments in Western Australia in 2020. Vocational education and training is an area of opportunity for continued cooperation between Western Australia and Ria-Vung Tau, and it accounts for 25% of student enrolments from Vietnam and is second only to higher education, which accounted for 47% of student enrolments from Vietnam in 2020. And the Government of Western Australia's Education Business Development Manager in Vietnam, who is on the ground, will continue to engage locally to build on these opportunities for Western Australia and Vietnam. Culture and the arts is another focus area of the MOU, and with a strong Vietnamese diaspora, we maintain strong cultural links and people-to-people ties with Vietnam, even during these times of locked borders and COVID. In 2016, it was recorded that 15,840 West Australian residents were actually born in Vietnam, accounting for 2% of our overseas born residents in Western Australia. Existing connections between different regions in Vietnam and Western Australia also include a number of agreements, such as Bunbury and Nha Trang, which have been friendship cities since 2016, based on education, culture, trade, tourism, and sporting exchange. And Augusta Margaret River have friendship city with Ho Chi Minh since 2016. And the Augusta Margaret River Tourism Association and Quang Binh Province formalised the world's first ever Sister Caves Agreement in February 2015. So we're very excited to add the MOU with Ria-Vung Tau to this growing list of connections between Vietnam and Western Australia. Tourism is also a priority area of focus for Western Australia's investment and trade development with Vietnam, and more specifically Barrio Tau. The Perth Airport plays a central role in strengthening our bilateral relationship in regards to trade and investment, as well as tourism and international transport, and this is also covered in the report. The department, with the support of Tourism WA and working in collaboration with Perth Airport, will continue to enable various initiatives under the MOU to be realised. This includes tour operator delegations, a tourism business forum, tourism promotional videos and material, and other related initiatives. And of course, the aviation connections between Western Australia and Vietnam are a priority for the Western Australian government. I'd like to, leave it there because we have so much more to cover in the panel. I'd just like to say in conclusion that the Perth USAsia Centre's report, Ria-Vung Tau Province, a vanguard for advancing the Australia-Vietnam economic relationship, reaffirms the importance of our engagement with Ria-Vung Tau as an economic engine room in Vietnam with already strong economic ties with Western Australia that will continue to be expanded on under our state-based MOU. I certainly recommend the report to you all and look forward to working with you to continue to build on our mutual success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Krista. I appreciate that. In a couple of minutes, we're going to be joined by Rebecca Ball, but until that time, I wanted to kind of group a couple of questions together. Those of you who are watching online, I've got a number of questions that were submitted in advance, but if you'd like to use the chat function, feel free to type in questions in the chat. I'll get to those as we have time in this process. But Kyle and Krista, both of you highlighted some of the already pre-existing relationships. Far too often, I think we set up a political relationship and then we try to build the economic foundation afterwards, right? And I think we all realize that things are much more sturdy if the foundation pre-exists. And so the fact that we already have an Interflower port and flour mill, the fact that we've already got an Austell shipbuilding facility there, the fact there's already Blue Scope steel there, and that there's some already real potential for other traditional backbones of our relationship, be they iron ore and related to steel or LNG, that seems to create a foundation for a very strong economic relationship. I was wondering, maybe we'll start with you, Kyle, and come back to Krista. What do you think are the next phases in this relationship? What are the next things to be built on that already strong existing foundation? Kyle, over to you first.
Thanks, Gordon. Yeah, one of the emerging things, emerging trades that Barrio-Vung Tau is actually an epicenter for is Vietnam's emerging LNG import industry. Now, there's 2 terminals that are under development in the province, one by Hai Linh Company and another by PV Gas, Petro Vietnam Gas. And they're adjacent to each other in the province. The infrastructure is early on in its development. But I think this presents opportunities for Australia and Western Australia. One, I think assisting the development of import infrastructure will be a key opportunity for Australian engineering consultancies and others. And then a little further down the line, potentially as an LNG supplier as well. That's an emerging thing. It's being driven by Vietnam's growing energy power needs. And this will just continue to grow and grow. And hello, Rebecca, welcoming Rebecca to our panel discussion. So I think that's one big area, but look, I think there's some other niche areas as manufacturing shifts through things like the China +1 strategy, where firms include China in their value chain, but also begin to move sections of manufacturing to countries like Vietnam. That will only increase demand for Australian inputs and raw materials. So I think even in critical minerals, there'll be some opportunities in the future, and others as well. But those are my thoughts. Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you, Kyle. In just a minute, I'm going to come back to you on that same question, Krista, but let me interrupt here to welcome to our panel discussion Rebecca Ball. Rebecca is the Senior Trade Commissioner for Vietnam and Cambodia as part of the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, Austrade. She's actually on the ground in Ho Chi Minh City, and so we're very fortunate to have her join this conversation. Rebecca, I've just, after the presentation of Kyle's report and the initial report on the state's efforts from Krista, I've asked both of them to reflect upon what are the next phases in the development of our relationship, observing the fact that one of the things that made Ria-Vung Tau so attractive was the fact that there already was a strong economic foundation of interflower, of steel, of shipbuilding. And the question really was, what are the next phases of that thing, building on a strong foundation? So I'll come back to you on that, but Krista, to you first.
Thanks, Gordon. I think we've already mentioned the opportunities at high level across education, energy, and tourism. Though some of those more niche areas that Kyle alluded to would be around the technology and advanced manufacturing space. You know, it was mentioned that aquaculture and agri-tech are certainly areas of focus. I think logistics is one of those kind of underestimated but critical areas of services that wraps around something like an emerging energy economy. And certainly as Ria-Vung Tau brings itself forward in its energy evolution, that's going to be one of the challenges and one of the areas where we can certainly cooperate and work together.
Fantastic. Kyle, you mentioned at the outset that the WA Vietnam Australia Business Council have been very helpful to you in this process. We got a wonderful question from one of your colleagues there, David Morgan, who was really asking the question, what could the WA Vietnam Business Council do to best support the objectives of the MOU? And both Kyle and Krista might have some sense of that, because we do have an interested business community here too. What would you gave some specific recommendations for things we might want to do in BVRT. What could we do here?
Yeah, thanks, Gordon, and thanks, David, for that question. Look, I was really surprised. I've given a couple speeches for the WA Vietnam Business Council this year, and what really struck me is we actually have a community, not just an Australian Vietnamese community. We have an Australian Ria-Vung Tau community. There's a number of people here from the province. They have their own connections in the province, and you know, there's some really interesting opportunities there. Look, I think you know, the Business Council really has a good opportunity to make sure that businesses here in WA can really understand and connect with the opportunities in the province, and that, you know, could include a number of things. You know, continuing their excellent program of events. You know, continuing to connect people on both sides. And I think, you know, that that program I mentioned earlier, the roadmap program, the Vietnam Business Council would fit in with that incredibly well, and really helping Australian companies navigate how to set up business in a new province and in an unfamiliar place. So I think that's a really important role.
We have a relatively short amount of time left, and we want to give some time at the end for the ambassador to make some closing remarks. But I've gotten, both on the online chat and in pre-submitted questions, a lot of them focused around, you know, energy, not just LNG exports from here, but renewable energy, the potential for hydrogen, the potential for you know, a partnership. And I will note here, Kyle will recall this. About 4 or 5 years ago, we were fortunate to host a delegation from Vietnam focused like a laser on climate change. As a country where so much of the land is low-lying, that there's so much risk of salinization coming in from the oceans as ocean levels rise, Vietnam was far ahead of us in many respects of thinking about climate change, and a real leader on that. And so it seems that whenever we talk about potential collaboration, one area that Vietnam is going to be interested in is on not just energy, but energy in a in a world that has to be more sensitive to the challenges of climate change. We're very short on time, but Kyle, I wanted to give you a chance to make a final comment on that or react to anything else Rebecca might have said. And then Krista, I'll give you a final word too before I turn to the ambassador. Kyle, to you.
Thanks, Gordon. Yeah, look, I think there's manifold opportunities to engage with Vietnam and energy and clean energy. I think, actually, if you look at the province, there is a very, very large solar farm. Actually, I think there's a couple solar farms in the province. I'm trying to remember the names of these solar farms. So it is something that's present there. There is opportunity for further investment and cooperation. And that is something that that my report that I dug up in the process of researching my report. Also, you know, further down the line, hydrogen, you know, our center's line on hydrogen is it's a great export partnership opportunity for Australia to build closer export and economic cooperation with countries like Vietnam. So there will be opportunities there emerging. But yeah, this has been great insights from everybody. Thank you so much, Gordon.
Thank you. Krista, any final comments from you?
I think at the risk of stating the obvious, the role that we all play in underpinning the success of the commercial relationship so far and in developing these new opportunities and exploring them right across the various sectors and many opportunities that Vietnam and the Ria-Vung Tau region represent is about the connections and relationships that we establish. It's the introductions, the delegations and the exchanges, those people to connections on the ground and across the water, understanding each other, our cultures and our ways of doing business that contributes to a way forward together. And we certainly have plenty to learn from each other. And certainly, I guess the key thing I can highlight before we switch over is utilising the support available to you, whether it's, you know, Rebecca at the federal government level, the state government level and the resources we have available, Perth USAsia Centre in terms of communicating the opportunities, our business councils, AusCham and CCI that Rebecca mentioned. There's so much support out there, so we're certainly not doing it alone. And I think when we're all working together and communicating openly and sharing our lessons learned, we're going to be all the better for it. Thank you.
Krista, thank you. Again, to re-emphasize your point, we clearly all have a friend in a wonderful national Austrade present there in terms of our Senior Commissioner, Rebecca Ball. We're so fortunate to have you on the ground in Ho Chi Minh City. Krista, we're delighted to have you in the region, and we anticipate that any trips that we take to Vietnam, we'll try to make sure that we coordinate that going together with you going forward. Now, we are extremely fortunate to have to kind of wrap up our discussion today. Vietnam's ambassador to Australia, to Canberra, Ambassador Nguyễn Tất Thành. Ambassador Nguyen, I think many of you will know him. He's one of the most senior ambassadors we've ever had in Australia, and we're very fortunate to have him. He was previously ambassador to Thailand before he came down here, has had global roles and regional roles, and really understands the environment in which this sister state relationship is taking place. I understand that the ambassador is heading back to Vietnam very soon, and this is a busy time for him, so we really appreciate him making time. Without further ado, I'll turn over to Ambassador Nguyen for some final comments.
Yes, thank you so much indeed, Gordon. And Mr. Tran Van Tuan, kính thưa ngài Tran Van Tuan, Phó Chủ tịch Ủy ban Nhân dân Barrio Vũng Tàu, Gordon Flake, CEO Perth USAsia Centre. I got no script today, so I try to be as brief as possible. First of all, I'm really honored to join you today because, you know, Barrio Vũng Tau is a city that I'm so proud of. During my career, I've been able to try to do something to contribute to Barrio Vũng Tau because Thai companies, you got to compete with them. They are paying a lot of attention to Barrio Vũng Tau. And they got some kind of very big long-term petrochemical industrial park there. It's improving and it's developing very much. I got to share with you 2 points. Firstly, you got to, thank to Barrio Vũng Tau's geostrategic location. As you said, Vietnam is one of the most dynamic countries in the region, but Barrio Vũng Tau is one of the dynamic provinces of Vietnam. And in particular, thanks to its largest seaports of Vietnam, Thị Vải, Cái Mép is very big port the biggest ship from Australia could get there. And especially, I've been to the province so many times. The people there are so hospitable, and the government there really, really accountable. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Vice Chairman Tran Van Tuan and DG of the Foreign Service, Tien, who responded to our call to try to get vaccines to the Australian people living there. So I would like to thank you so much indeed for that. And you know, as ambassador of Vietnam to Australia, I would like to share with you some updates regard to our coming things. Firstly, as you all know, Vietnam and Australia are getting closer and closer together. I mentioned earlier with Gordon that in June, Prime Minister Scott Morrison at the USAsia Centre there in Perth, he mentioned that we are like-minded partners, and I believe that we are very supportive of the rule of law, of multilateralism, and we are very well against coercive trade measures. And I think we really have a lot of things to share with each other. Back in 2019, when Prime Minister Morrison visited Vietnam, I was there welcoming him, and he mentioned the word mateship. At the time, I did not understand the word. The first time I heard was from him, but now I understand that very special meaning. Only Australian and Vietnamese now can understand that. The second point regard to one of the things that some of you have mentioned, the Australia-Vietnam enhanced economic engagement strategy, which had been announced early this month. This is a very, very important document. I think it draws on experiences of cooperation between the two countries, but especially on Ria-Vung Tau's cooperation with Western Australia and the other states of Australia. There are 8 priority areas that all of you have mentioned. First, education and training. Second, natural resources and energy. Third, agriculture, forestry, and aquaculture. Fourth, manufacturing. Fifth, tourism. 6, science and technology. 7, digital economy, and 8, services. Very, very important areas, and there will be a lot of activities under the strategy. A strategy, but with a lot of action. I'm very amazed reading the draft strategy. I think it's this 80-page document. You could call it an action plan, not a strategy. But we are committed to a lot of joint activities for the coming 5 years. It's very, very important. And I hope I believe you also have taken note of a lot of new initiatives, such as new ministerial discussions between the two countries. A lot of new bilateral mechanisms will be set up at the federal level between the minister in charge of economic cooperation. And I also mentioned, I don't know if I did, the Policy Institute, Australia-Vietnam Policy Institute, which had been agreed upon by the partners. The Fed agreed to give 100,000 Australian dollars to IMIT to do that. I'm very happy to talk to the people over there. I hope you will be joining as a member of that. The third issue regarding our trade and investment cooperation, I would like to give you an update. By the end of October, our trade reached about 10 billion US dollars, and which recorded an increase of 50% compared to the same period last year. Australia exported to Vietnam 6.5 billion. We exported 3.5 only, but we imported a lot of raw materials, including coal, minerals, and wine, barley. I think it's very important for not only for drinker, but also for the economy of Vietnam. I'm very happy that the trade is there and increasing so fast, and investment too. Not only Ostan and Interflower, as you mentioned, many other companies, not only from Western Australia, but also from the other state interface, trying to talk to me about their possible investment in the country. The fourth point I'd like to raise, I think that many people will be expecting some kind of new airport, right? And 4 of our airlines are queuing to fly directly to Australia, including Vietnam Airlines, I believe Việt Travel Airways, Bamboo Airways, and Vietjet Travel. Well, all of them are asking for permission. Some of them have been granted permission. 1 or 2 will be flying to Melbourne, the other will be flying to Sydney. But I hope that you got a good services over there and good cost over there in Perth to welcome at least one of our airlines, the city, the nearest city to Vietnam from Australia. You got to get one of those airlines to Perth. And finally, with regard to our mission here in Canberra, we at the embassy, we got some kind of economic policy, economic diplomacy. One of our most important projects. I'd like to see each and every one of you to talk about what we at embassy can do to support your business cooperation with Vietnam. And I hope that Western Australia will be getting closer, not only to Barrio, but also to the rest of Vietnam. I understand that Victoria, for one, Queensland, just last month, established their office, trade investment office in Ho Chi Minh City. It's a very encouraging news. And I hope that you can have some office there in Vietnam, either in Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City, or Hanoi. Will be welcome. I think that it would be very, very good if you could have such a facility to support your business from Western Australia. And of course, finally, I look forward to visiting you in Perth and the state. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Look, we're right at the hour, a minute over, but one theme I hope you will take away from this conversation, and Krista evidenced it very well, there is not just a single point of contact. There really is a community already, and that is part of the foundation of this relationship. So the wonderful Australian consulate in Ho Chi Minh City, the Austrade representative there, the commissioner, the ambassador at the embassy in Canberra. We're greatly honored to have the vice chairman of the People's Committee of Ria-Vung Tau Province, Vice Chairman Tran Van Tuan, join us today. His busy time gives you a sense of that. And of course, our own commissioner on the ground there, Krista. And we in both the business community here and the academic community who realize there's tremendous potential that we're going to work on here. So on behalf of the Perth USAsia Centre, let me say to all those who invested time to watch us today, to use the Vietnamese, cảm ơn, thank you. And I'm looking forward to the moment when we can meet in person, whether we can welcome the vice chairman here in Perth, or we can visit there in Ria-Vung Tau Province, and we'll say either Chào An or Chào Go or Good Day, however we want to do it. So thank you all. We appreciate your time. Please take the time to read Kyle's report in detail. Cảm ơn.